Hello, everyone, and Dewey Happers. Happy St. David's Day. So we're recording on Friday, the 1st of March. Max, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Miles. How are you?
Yeah, recovered from your trip to Sweden yet?
So there was very little recovery required. It was a very non-stressful trip. I suppose the only recovery required was the Saturday recovering from a hangover, because as is traditional at a gaming event, I got drunk on the Friday, so I was hungover for the first day of the event. But it was a good trip.
Yeah.
Had fun.
Yeah, I mean, you feel shortchanged unless you woke up a little bit. Or, have you got sick since coming back? Have you got lurgy since you got coming back? Like convention sickness?
No, but someone was coughing on the plane, so I imagine I'll do a nosedive after this weekend.
Well, as long as you're okay for the recording, let's get through this, and we'll
and then
be fine.
It doesn't matter what happens. Then off to A&E.
Then off to A&E, yeah. Well, yeah, good luck in this country. But anyway, that's an entirely separate matter on our healthcare system. Okay, today on HobbyHammer, what have we got for us? So we'll be doing an overview of our challenge, our Old World Challenge. We'll be seeing all the highs and very much the lows of collecting during the month of February, which even with the extra day, it's been tough trying to get over the line. So we'll be finding out the results from that. We'll be reviewing all the new stuff Games Workshop are shoveling our way, including the Solar Ox box. Wondering whether we'll be able to buy that or whether scalpers are going to get their hands on everything.
Already on the negativity, come on.
Continuing on with this super positive uplift, we do have a new character for the Heresy. So Max, what should we start with first? Where should we start first?
Let's start with the either or the or.
The either or the or. Yeah, I think this is a good place to start. Okay, initial impressions when this dropped.
Is that for me to go for? Oh, I'm glad I'm taking precedence in this now. So, as a character model, I really like the pose. Yeah. I think it's well put together with the sense of movement, like the rear leg trailing, and it's got like a sort of a sense of dynamism with that sword off to the right. The face is nice, and it's one of the things I'm always wary about the face is I do think they've knocked it out of the park with this one. At least I do. And yeah, I think it's altogether quite a good model.
Same. I have seen people online saying that it's just another Space Marine model, like dude with sword. What's weird is that they got such great iconic artwork of him and Axelmand fighting. You wonder why they didn't do that pose, because it's like super dynamic, charging forward with a sword, looking to like take someone's head off. Like all the core elements were there. Perhaps it's a production issue. Perhaps.
Sorry. Go.
Oh yeah, perhaps it's like harder to cast like that.
Well, it might be
easier to cast.
Like it was sort of a Zephony pose in the artwork, if I'm remembering correctly.
And yeah, so like charging forward, like.
Yeah, because it's not like a balanced like sword up like the Blood Angel's Praetor. It's much more dynamic, which translates in artwork. But for a model without a jump pack that's meant to be like off balance, it might not have shown up well in the model and just looked a bit like he was falling over.
Right. Yeah.
Is what I was thinking when I thought about it as a comparison.
Yeah. And what I have seen as well, that a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a really good collection of bits. I can use it for this. I can use it for X. I can use it for Y. But like as a model in and of itself, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a good model. It is a good model. I'm interested to see it out in the wide, like with anything with these things. I'm interested to see it in the hands of like Heresy painters and out in the wider community. I think the face has its merits with a different take on the paint job, because the paint job is good. It's good heavier metal style miniature painting. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just I'd like to see like a different take, a different style approach to it. Yeah, all in all, solid release. Yeah. And I'm very appreciative of just how thick and chunky Marines are becoming, because I quite like seeing the Tortuga Bay stuff. I think it's Raptor Imperialis. He's building a Death Guard army using all Tortuga Bay bits, and they're all big, thick, chunky, and they look phenomenal. And weirdly, that is one of the things I thought when I saw this miniature at first. I thought, oh, that's a really cool Tortuga Bay model. Like that's a really cool third-party miniature. But yeah, I do really appreciate like the tasteful thickness that Space Marine armor is exhibiting in this time period.
Yeah, just on the note of like, oh, it's just another Space Marine.
Well, right. This isn't my words, by the way. This is this is things I've seen. Yeah, this isn't a criticism of mine.
No, they're all Space Marines, unless we've had no militia models. Like, and we're about to go into the Solars, and they don't look like Space Marines, but the Space Marines tend to look very Space Marine.
But playing pure devil's advocate here. Okay, so there are Space Marines, then there are Space Marines. Yeah. You get Space Marines like the Imperial Fist Praetor, the one that's charging forward, like full of dynamism, full of character. You look at that thing and you think, oh, I can see the scene around it almost. It's dramatic. It has a storyline and narrative to it. Whereas when maybe you see something like this, where it doesn't quite have that same sense of like dynamism or same sense of like X Factor, whatever the hell that could be.
But then that I think a lot of that is conveyed in the paint job, as you said. This is a heavy metal style paint job,
maybe,
and it's because there's a lot of statically posed models that look very good, and there's only so many good poses you can do.
There are only so many poses you could do.
Yeah, otherwise they all end up looking like those Ultramarine Blade Guard from 40k, that they're just mirrored poses of each other.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, what do you think? What do you think, community? Is this a hit? Is this a miss? Do you like the pose? Do you not like the pose? Is it just another Space Marine sculpt? Or is it a platform for something higher?
Yeah, right, so here's one of the
reference.
It can take us higher, Miles.
It can take... How far are we in? We're not even 10 minutes in. We're already working in Creed references.
So everyone that's not a Heresy player that loves Space Marines anyway, just looks at this and goes, it's a Space Marine.
Yeah.
So it's like sort of us Space Marine appreciators splitting hairs at the end of the day. Like,
yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, it is split. But I mean, I guess that's part of the great thing about like the Heresy community. Like you can really drill into the minutiae of it, because when this was released, like one of the groups I'm a part of, they were talking about like the pattern of bolter and what forge world it could have been produced on, whether the Cullen blade is slightly too chaosy or not too chaosy. Like you can really drill into the specifics of it. I think from the outside,
are on that shoulder pad?
How many rivets? Rivet counting, exactly. From the outside, it can seem a little bit pernickety, and it can seem a little bit, like rivet countery. But that's part of like the fun of Heresy modeling, like finding those specifics. And Mike came up with a great
of things. Like...
Yeah, so Mike Fellhander did come up with a good comment. God, what did he say? It looks like Lionel.
As in like kitchen floor lino.
Thundercats. It's the sword. It's the sword hilt, like the eye on it.
Right, okay. I can see that.
Very liner. Yeah, and that kind of makes me love the sculpt more.
It does increase.
Yeah.
Oh, stop flicking, but we want that glorious side view of you, Miles.
Oh, you want the side view? Okay, right. We can keep with this until it... Yeah, until it turns blurry.
So, shall we move on to the Solar Auxilia?
Oh, God. Yes, please. Now these boxes for the weekend. I have a commission for 4 boxes all in all, but I need 2 on day of release. I'm a big fan of these sculpts. I think the translation from resin to plastic has gone better than I've seen other translations, so like the Krieg and Acadians were very, very good. But I think they've managed to capture that essence of the set and just how thin the last cannons are, but you're not going to have them snap. Like this is such a... Oh, God, I'm looking at the miniatures now. Like this is such a tempting army.
It's a very satisfying army to play and paint, Miles. Like having got a load of Solar Auxilia,
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't have this box is
Right,
useless
yeah.
to me, but
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
gives me hope that there will be more Solar Auxilia players in the world as we
Are
need.
you happy about the tanks turning into plastic?
I'm happy that there will be Lehman Russes into the ongoing future.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
prefer the non what's it called, trim, like with the trim around the edges. I prefer the old versions
Mhm.
that look newer, just because
I
of
know
my
what you mean.
personal
Yeah.
preference. But
Yeah.
regardless, the fact that they're immortalized in plastic now, at least for a while,
Hmm.
I think is good.
Yeah. So
It can
yeah,
only be a good thing.
one of the drawbacks of having the Krieg army is that you need a lot of like Lehman Russes, and they're very expensive buying them. So the ability to buy these is just mwah for me.
Yeah. The Dracosan coming to plastic is good, even if it'll never get used on the tabletop because they're 240 points per model and not very good.
If you're looking for a modeling opportunity with them, I think it would make an excellent bastion for like an Arbites like riot squadron. So instead of
Yes.
having like precincts, yeah, I was thinking like having something like a mobile fortress rolling. Anyway, that's what I want to do with mine. But you did. Sorry if I'm like jumping ahead of things, but before we started the podcast, so the issue. God, what issue are we? 6, 7?
Issue 6. I'm going to say 6.
Ish,
I'm going to
issue
say
6.
6. You say 7, Miles, because then at least one of us will
7.
be right.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we're starting with issue 8. Yeah, you did say this box set is a little lopsided. This isn't what you would have wanted for a starter. Now, for me, looking from the inside out, you got a big blob of infantry, tick, tank, tick. The Walker, love it or hate it, I quite like the look of it, and it like I really hope we get the guy with the battle suit. In one of the previous books, and you get Dracosan. Like this for me is a good starting box set as a painter. So from a gaming perspective, why is this lopsided?
As I just mentioned, this Dracosan at the moment is absolutely terrible. From a gaming perspective, and you're going to want so much more infantry to flesh out from this box.
Okay.
I would immediately recommend someone goes like another 60, 80 infantry from here.
That many?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like 60 points for 10 las riflemen and
Right.
100
Okay.
points for 20.
Yeah.
And if you just put that on a table versus Marines with your 4-up save, the amount of incidental AP4 that's about, it just murders you. So I've played like sort of 40 games with the Solar Army that's featured on the channel. And anytime you play it, you sort of start off strong and you're like, oh, I might like have I might kick the shit out of this person. Like, oops. And then it gets to like turn 4 and you're like, oh, the Marines have staying power and I'm just melting because that grav that is scattered off the tank, a Marine player would then be like, it's scattered off, it's going to be useless. If it scatters onto your Solar Auxilia, it just kills an entire blast's worth of them because the AP is 4 of that. And you wouldn't know that unless you played Solar. Marine players don't know that because they don't care.
No.
But
No.
yeah, so just
how about those guys with the axes? Because
the Velataris
from looking at previous lists, I see they are quite popular.
Yeah, so it's something that I've got. I tend to sprinkle them into squads of. Obviously, you don't get Volkites in here, but I tend to sprinkle them with 15 Volkites, 5 axes into squads like that. And then when you have 60, and here it comes into the numbers again. Then when you have 3 squads of 20 Velataris, when you overwatch or you return fire, you're returning fire overwatching with 45 Volkites, and then you hit them with some axes that have got the disposable bodies of the Volkites in combat. But that is then immediately having this massive weight of infantry. Now, if you're buying this for the Sentinel,
Yeah.
and the Sentinel's actually good. They released some rules this
Yeah.
week.
Can you give me just like a brief overview of what kind of like hole they plug
So
in the game for Solar Rocks?
Solar Rocks really struggle with AP2. Like, there's a picture of a Vanquisher on screen right now, but other than that, Solar Rocks very much struggle with AP2 output. The Sentinel will have, it's got a Melter Lance, so that's the 18-inch range, Strength 8, AP, I think it's AP1. AP ignores 2-up saves, and it's 60 points base, 85 with that, and it's got the same wounds and toughness as a Dreadnought and a 2-up save.
Jesus,
So
really?
It's really cheap.
Do you take these things in squadrons, or are they like Dreadnoughts that kind of like standalone pieces?
I'm going to get. I didn't look when I looked at the rules. I just saw the stat line and was like, "They're good."
Sure.
But I'm going to guess 3s. I'm going to take these in 3s because it's then triple the wounds of a Dreadnought for only 50% more cost, and then my output will be quite good from the amount of shots. Not too unwieldy as well on the tabletop, moving about. So it's fairly good.
Yeah, and there was a Solar Auxilia commander in book 4, I want to say, when he was fighting against the Dark Compliance, and he was armored in one of these battle suits.
No, that's different. Oh, well, I'm going to stop the recording
was a different
for a second
guy.
Find the picture. So
Sure.
This is the Idran Sedere model done by the sculptor who actually sculpted the Forge World Solar Auxilia. And this is the reason I don't think they're going to release. It's not the same battle suit because it's his like archaeotech survival suit that keeps him alive. I don't think they're going to do a Forge World version or anything because this is already in existence from that original sculptor.
But we have to say this isn't in mass production. He sculpted it for his own pleasure. I don't think he's printed it out for anyone. I haven't seen any painted versions of it at the very least. So I know he's done other bits and pieces that former Forge World painters have gotten and painted up. God, I'd love to. Is that like a little dog or like a lamb around his groin area? What is that?
Something like that. Like, it maybe looks like a kangaroo or a donkey.
Yeah, it's kind of like his like bridle that he'd used to like mount a horse.
Oh, like so he's like a horse-mounted servo suit.
Yeah, horse-mounted servo suit. Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? I mean, if Games Workshop bought the rights to this and just released it as is, I think they'd be on to a winner. I'm hoping we will see some kind of iteration of this character because it's just, I mean, who doesn't love awkward-looking mechs?
Yeah. Yeah, and it just oozes
we can dream.
Ridiculousness.
We can dream.
Yeah. So I just back to the Solar Auxilia box. It's
Solar
great
Rocks,
that they're doing them. I'm excited about them for the world. Because it's like I've already got my army. I just want more people to play Solar Auxilia. It's just I hope they do, and this is wishful thinking. I hope they do another set that's like a big buy-in just of infantry, rather than forcing everyone if they need enough infantry. Because I've got 180 infantry for my Solar Auxilia, and it doesn't feel like enough. So. To like if by that point of buying them in this box, you're gonna have 8 Lehman Russes and 8 of the Sentinels and 8 Dracosans you can throw away.
Yes, you could sell them, but yeah, we get into it. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, they will come with a box set later on, like 20 infantry. I'm guessing that people will be able to buy them individually.
Well, let's hope, right?
So if you're starting from fresh. You'd recommend people not to buy this and wait for just like mass infantry to come out?
I would recommend to buy this because you will need a like Lehman Russ. The Sentinels are pretty good. The Dracosan's a cool model, but I just wouldn't buy. I'd maybe buy 3 of them to get a squadron of Lehman Russ, but then expect to have to buy more infantry afterwards. Like I wouldn't sit on it like, right, I bought this, I'm just going to get some more tanks because your infantry just melts too fast as soon as it's on an objective. Yeah, expect to have to paint much more infantry than this battle group box.
Fair enough. And if you do need quick methods for painting, you can always look under the Legend Patreon under the Art of Compromise series. Little plug there. And if you want to learn how to play Solar Rocks, Max, you have a full guide for this up on your channel already.
I do.
Not
yes,
sure
I do. Except for the Sentinel.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course I do. Of course I do.
Of course you do. The hardest working man in the Heresy, Max. Unbelievable output.
I'm just going to take that.
Yeah, honest to God, like your output, like it feels like every time I switch on your channel, there's something new to watch. And I think with the new Heresy army, I either want to do Dark Mech when they're released or Solar Rocks, but I have had a bit of like I've been feeling the tingle. Keith was in the studio last week, and we did a couple of test schemes for a Space Wolf project. And the purple Space Wolf scheme we came up with is it's got me thinking. But
have you got
I do want to do. Yes,
we're in a video format.
I know. I'm.
Okay, so we're back and with the models flashed up. So
it's amazing.
Schemes,
like,
right?
Yeah, it's a visual medium. I'm really glad one of us is a professional. Yes, so these are the two schemes. So we worked on a green scheme. We worked on a purple scheme. Keith has had this thing in his head for years. I need to do something like the old classic box set, but I want new things. He's influenced by new things. So we've had like this really weird juxtaposition where he can't quite produce something he's happy with. So we just went really left field and tried a green scheme and used a purple scheme.
When you say green and purple, Miles, are you trying to get to grey from that and it's just the tint of green? Because these still... Although it is green and although it is purple, it still speaks to that, like sort of.
Yeah, it still reads
heresy.
As grey. Yeah. So we didn't use any grey paint in these whatsoever. We really wanted to push it, but by using complementary tones. So the purple one has a little bit of green in the top highlights, and vice versa for the green. So the green has purple in the highlights. But by overlapping complementary colours, you can kind of neutralise them to fool the eye into thinking it's grey, but still keep that color intensity. So what we've done with these is work it up from like a dark purple base through a range of purples to create the purple effect, and the same with the green grey. I think I worked on the purple one because I love this scheme. When you look at the artwork from Forge World, they all have like this purplish hint, this purplish tone. And Matthew, he wrote PDF tutorials on each of the legions using the original Forge World schemes, but adapted with new materials. Because some of the materials he used just simply aren't available anymore, so he used workarounds for it. And each of the legions he did a PDF for that we host on the Patreon. And in that, he used a purple for the wolves. And when you look at it, you think this doesn't make sense until you do it yourself. I think this makes perfect sense. Why they do that? The grey is the most boring color to deal with, even worse than black. So you need to find ways of adding color influences into it and adding atmosphere. So by adding color into it, you reinvigorate it. And I was just very happy with this test scheme. Sometimes you just do something and you hit on gold. And I felt like I've really hit on something with the Space Wolves, so much so that I would like to translate this over to a small kill pack team. You know, when you get really enthusiastic about a project, I'd love to do like a small kill pack team running alongside. I don't want to collect another Space Marine army for my next Heresy army. I have the Blood Angels, I have the Sons of Horus. I want to do something new. I want to do something creative. I want to do something a little bit away from power armor. I'm hoping that by the time I do the Chaos Warrior project and paint up a Calidor dragon, because it's Year of the Dragon as well. It's Year of the Dragon. This is it's St. David's Day. Like, look, dragons over everything. I need to paint a dragon.
That happens every year.
Yeah, but I need to paint a dragon. I need to paint a dragon.
Maybe so that could be this month's additional thing.
Paint a dragon? No,
or a dragon slayer.
It's no, because if I'm painting that, I'm not painting the Chaos Warriors. I need to be monofocused on the Chaos Warriors. Yes, so you're a bad man for trying to lead me astray. Yes, but I really like this Space Wolf scheme, and
yeah, well, it's
can't
nice.
wait.
It has reminiscence, but not to the 40k schemes that I used to look at when I was like a kid in third and fourth ed, and they were like obviously the shadow grey. I don't know whatever it's called now, but
It's kind of like a baby blue.
oh, is it like really baby blue now?
It used to, so Keith is influenced by like the 90s stuff, like
So
that.
that's like the
bright,
second ed, bright.
yeah, but then it went like in third edition, yeah, like you say, to what was that color?
It was Space Wolf Grey in second edition, then Shadow Grey
Yeah.
in third edition.
That's right,
like
and it
the
had a more
Shadow Grey.
purplish.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it had more purplish hint then. Yeah.
And it's reminiscent of that, but then with the highlights, bringing it out into the more heresy, flatter grey for the main. And I know it obviously isn't flat grey here; it's got the purple in, as you say, but it reads as, because obviously, like when you look at a black car and it's got reflections on it, not a lot of the car is actually black. This is reading to me the same way.
Yeah, and I feel like I need to work on the contrast a little bit. Like I need to darken the shadows a little bit, maybe peak the highlights a little bit more. But like as a test scheme, I'm very, very happy with it. And if you want to see how both of these are painted, by the time you're watching this, both tutorials should be a part 1, part 2, where I torture Keith all the way through it. So it's more of like a podcasty style of video tutorial where we're chatting about the inspiration, chatting about Creed, chatting about life, love, and laughing. So that will be, as well as, so I'm really proud of this tutorial, but it's a Praetorian, like the guys with the pith helmets. That's coming out this weekend as well. It's an Art of Compromise, where we try and get infantry painted under half an hour a piece without necessarily compromising the quality. And I want this to lead into a large Imperial Guard tutorial to set, because I haven't got the Solar Rocks boxes yet. And it's going to take me a few weeks to devise a scheme, paint it up, and then present it. So I'm hoping that's going to satiate the lust of Imperial Guard players in the meanwhile. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with how that tutorial's turned out. So that's both this weekend. But enough of me plugging this. That was the Solar Rocks, unless there's anything else we wanted to chat.
That speech about Space Wolves being a nice scheme.
Yeah.
That covers our Solar Rocks. Yeah, well, I think that's enough for Heresy this week.
Yes.
Like we've covered my trip, the new releases. Let's go on to the old world. Out this week, we've got some releases of old models, right? But the two that we've selected to want to talk about were this. So I've pulled up now the Tomb King's scrolly guy. I can't remember the exact name of him, but I think it's a really nice model that is obviously new release.
Emissary of Cetra.
Emissary of Cetra,
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got loads of character. It is a bit static and not moving about on his own piece of furniture, but the distended jaw reminds me of the Mummy film. And yeah, I always think of a Morning Star looks really menacing. Miles, what do you think is an actual good breakdown?
A good what, sorry?
A good breakdown of the model, because mine was terrible.
Looks nice.
So there we go. Everyone,
when you look at the two, when you look at the Tomb King range, it was kind of devised in the wake of movies like the Mummy and the Scorpion King. If it reminds you of that, I think it's doing well. As a sculpt, it looks great. Very characterful. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Tomb Kings and the aesthetic. It's just something that I've never looked at. I think, oh, I want to collect an army of those. But this looks like a very nice, interesting challenge to paint. So just purely as a miniature painter, I quite like the look of the sculpt. Yeah, all round, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me. It's just like I think it's got character for the army. I'm just not always getting off on the army, you know. Whereas the next model, Miles.
Oh my god!
This is one that you selected.
What a classic!
I've got one here. Look at mine.
I've got one. Oh, here. Yes. Quite possibly the finest sculpt ever produced by Games Workshop.
That's
And
a really
a company,
that's a really big shout.
yeah, and quite possibly the best paint job they've ever done on a character. The sense of dynamism, the proportions. I mean, I haven't got the
You've not got the
backpack
shield.
to it as well. Yeah, the shield's off camera, but yeah, you get the idea. I mean, just look at that goddamn sky. Even if you knew nothing about Warhammer, even if you knew nothing about tabletop collecting, you look at this miniature and think, yeah, that's cool. And as a boy, you might think of this like a small kid, like man on knight, man on horse, knight on horse. Great, I'm going to buy that. Okay, I'm going to make a bold claim here. I think if you are a collector of miniatures, I think you should buy this miniature, especially with the chance of the re-release, because this is one of the most sought after pieces on eBay. Loads of different recasts out there. You've got to be really careful. So the chance to get like an official version, we know it's going to be cast properly to you. I think it's an opportunity that I mean, I'll be picking up a new one just to have, just in case. Yeah, I
So
think
that you can paint the one that you've currently got.
Yes, and then mount
also
the other
have
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some kind of like oubliette. No, this I think it's in the conversation for being the best sculpt Games Workshop have produced.
Oh, right. I won't jump on that statement. I'm perfectly happy to agree with.
Okay.
Whereas the best, I think, is maybe
The
we should
best.
do that as a topic next time.
Top 5. Yeah, we could do one of those horrible like YouTuber things, like top 10 sculpts Games Workshop have ever produced.
Yes, we should do that.
Yeah.
We will do that. Right.
Okay, right. Okay. No. We'll no. I was going to say, like, off the
it.
top of your head, name number 1, but no, that would kind of defeat
on horse.
You had to go there, didn't you? We will discuss this in a separate program. We'll do it next week.
But
How about
notice
that?
2 cavalry models. 2 cavalry.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll do this next week.
We'll give our viewers a chance to like come in on the subject as well. What is the top 10 greatest sculpts Games Workshop have done? We'll collate them and we'll do like a ranking next week.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. But yeah, I agree with you. Everyone should. This is one of the best sculpts of all the time.
Yeah.
Oozing character. Very good paint job, as you say. And searching Instagram, if anyone wants to go further than this paint job and looking for some inspiration for that, there's loads of Green Knights that people have painted absolutely fabulously.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that is our, I think, fantasy news for the releases. One new thing.
Yeah, but go buy the Green Knight.
yeah. Go and buy the 25-year-old model.
Yeah.
The new Tomb King one is okay as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. Well, resounding endorsement. Okay, what's next?
Next, Miles, is onto the HobbyHammer #/challenge/Tale of Gamers / Little Legend Discord challenge.
/ everything / yes. So this is our monthly challenge / peer pressure group where we're trying to encourage each other to collect at least a 2K army or 2.5K old world army.
Collect.
Whatever really, it's turned into whatever people want to collect. We have a gentleman doing a Blood Bowl team, which he's managed to do this month. We have people doing AOS. Great. As long as it runs along fantasy-esque themes, more than welcome. If you'd like to join in the challenge, if you want to join along with us, you don't have to join the Discord, but it's a nice community hub, which the link will be in the description below. Hopefully, Max, because you do everything. Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. Hashtag anything on social media with HobbyHammer. Anything at all that you paint relates to this challenge or elsewhere, and then every month we'll do a little review of it. So, Max, how did you do this month in your own hobby challenge?
Are we going for our own? Are we going for the selfish tack?
Yeah, I think let's go the selfish tack. Yeah, I know a lot more about me than I do other people, so let's go down that route that route first. So, what was the challenge, and did you achieve it?
So, my challenge was to paint 30 peasants with a leader of peasants, a sergeant at arms.
Madness. It's absolute madness.
10 peasant bowmen and 6 knights with different schemes for each knight. Right? So
that's crazy. That's such a monumental thing to do in February, the shorter, even though we had the extra day, the shortest month of the year. How do you do?
I'd say 90% of the way there, maybe 80% of the way there. So everything is. So I'm on the full army shot at the moment for Miles following it on his side. I got everything based, at least to a minor degree. The peasants are all completely finished, except for the actual banner on the banner bearer. And the knights, I've got all of the different heraldic schemes painted. Let me go to the knights picture. All the different heraldic schemes painted on all the knights. And
so on the knights,
yes.
I'm curious about the movement tray that you've used. So when a unit charges in the side, it still has to have that like side frontage. Is that correct?
Right. So yeah, you're in the wedge shape, as can be seen on the main screen at the moment. So that would then be like, right, I'll get a wedge-shaped movement tray. But then I don't want to be asked changing movement trays if I get charged in the flank or don't. If you get charged in the front by infantry, you don't get to counter-charge. It's only against cavalry and monsters. So if I get charged in the front, the lance will be blunted. And that means I need to push everything to the front and go to like the sick-head lance formation where you're in a square.
Right.
So I contacted the War Office, which is like a local gaming store, and if anyone wants to get one of these as well, contact them because they've got the files, and got them to make this where it's just a square and I've got these L-shaped movement tray bits.
That's really clever.
So I can just take them out and push them forwards into the blunted lance because I'm lazy and don't want to change movement trays every time my lance gets blunted.
No, that's really clever, and because you don't want the lance is such an iconic thing, right? And having to like reform it if you're charged or if you charge in the rear, it's a bit of a ball ache. So having this where you don't have to move anything at all and you can still keep that iconic V shape, yeah, that's really clever.
Well, what it'll allow me as well to just have this additional like bit of basing on the sides to make it, because I've been looking at like historical models obviously through this army, and lots of them have just like more basing and it's more continuous across the unit, and I think it'll just allow me to do some extra experimentation on the bases, which I've been going for this marshland.
And you did say that. Oh, again,
no, God, I was rambling.
Like next month, you're going to do a resin pour as well.
I've done it on here.
Oh, you've done. Oh my God. Okay, so, hold on. Which one?
So it's on all of them. On all of them, except for the actual knight bases. On the peasant
the one
block.
picture I'm looking at. I can see.
Yeah, so on the peasant block, I've done it on the L-shaped bits on the knights, but I've on the knights only painted the heraldic schemes and a bit of the silvers. It's enough to look and read as like, oh, they're tabletop, but because I want to work into them more, I've not fully based them. I've just put a thin layer of base in.
No,
so
that looks
I can
great.
Then go over them again. The
That's
peasants,
nice and subtle.
I sort of completely finished except for that banner because I want to freehand the banner. And I've been pouring resin using the UV curing resin mixed with some paint. Yeah. And all I did for that is did my dirt mixture that's just literally dirt and PVA on the base. Well, it's the thing that looks closest to dirt. Dirt I have found looks more like dirt than any other substance. So I did the dirt mixture and just left a pool on random places, and then I've mixed like
that's clever
green, brown, and yellow to make it like a horrible looking marshy colour for the base on these. And I'm really happy with how they turned out. Actually, it's
no, it's I mean, as far as failures go, it is a brave failure, and it's something that I want to emphasize because most of the people partaking in the challenge have done this. They've gotten 90% of the way, 99% of the way, but they haven't quite gotten over the line. Don't worry. Look at what you've done rather than what you haven't. Next month, you're going to collect a little bit more. And that's the secret of collecting an army, right? It's not becoming discouraged by the small failures, but becoming encouraged by the things that you have done, the small steps that you're taking towards having a coherent army.
Yeah.
And having said that, I have got about 99% of the way there. My biggest challenge that I've found is finding bases, just good old square bases, enough that I need to do the entire army. I have the basing material. I have the miniatures, which are painted. Like I've painted 10 of these dudes to
So we had a
completion.
different experience in.
We had a very different experience. Yeah, I don't want to go third party with the bases. I want to do like Games Workshop official, because it just plays into that nostalgia feeling with them.
What, rather than doing like MDF bases or
Yes,
anything
yeah,
like that?
exactly. Yeah, I do quite like the plastic that Games Workshop produce. But this is a unit of 10 of these dudes that I've got done. And as a little additional bonus as well, it's kind of a cheeky cheat because I sort of did this before the challenge anyway. I've got Spawn painted up.
That looks absolutely fabulous, that one.
Yeah, looks disgusting, doesn't it? Like, so I've worked a little bit of satin varnish into the skin as well to make it seem like gribbly as well. So it has that extra sheen to it. So there's a lot of green used in the skin, and then green yellows in the highlight, undercut with oranges. I haven't gone pure red because I don't want anything as vital as that. When you look at the red of these guys, it's almost like arterial, pumping red. It's big, it's strong, it's bold. Whereas with this, like it's just drained of color, so not quite having the complements with each other, the green and the red, yellow, green, and orange instead. You still have that contrast, but you kind of like drain it of momentum, the color scheme. I've also dry brushed up 5 of these suckers.
Oh,
I
nice.
think
So
that
these were the ones you were working on, I believe it was episode 1.
that's right. Yes, and I've only dry brushed these so far. I need to pop in the teeth, the eyes, and then I want to do a couple of glazes. But I think as a tabletop thing, I can more than get away with these.
Yeah, like if you, especially if you're a 5-point hound, if you just
Yes,
hadn't have
exactly.
mentioned that they weren't finished,
Yeah.
I'd have read them as like close enough to finish to be finished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more than happy with where they're at. So the main challenge for me was actually the basing, because I wasn't able to buy the square bases on enough bulk that I was able to do the entire army. So I'm going to delay that until next month. And what I'll probably end up doing is just painting the army in bits like this, mount them on round bases, and then do the entire thing at once, like mount them all at once, because that will give me a clear idea of exactly what is in the army. Oh, let's get this out of the way. Right now, I have just like these amorphous feelings of what I want the army to look like. I know there'll be like a Chaos Warrior contingent. I know I want a Marauder contingent to it. Then I know I want like a monstrous contingent to it. But I'm not actually sure like how that translates into a point army. So once I have everything together, once it's the army's developing a little bit more, and before I come to play my first game, I'll create all the bases and mount everything at once. So that was my month in review. Again, a brave failure.
Yeah, but it's something that. Are you moving away from like the Dragon Graveyard basing?
No, I've got all the stuff for Dragon Graveyard basing. I'm not exactly sure how it will. It might be one of those ideas that just sounds great as a sentence, but then when I come to rank them up or try and play them against other armies, the last thing I want is like this huge jutting dragon skull, and you're able to make contact. It might be one of those things that works great in your imagination, but doesn't quite translate across. In which case, I'll break up those scenic pieces that I've built and just have the suggestion of it.
Well, I think between unit fillers
Mhm.
and like just taking a few pieces of scatter terrain,
Mm.
do you know, like to whatever game you play, you could pull off the
Mhm.
effect with minimal impact on the actual shape of the bases,
Yeah,
even if
that's
that's
my
what you're
hope.
going for.
Yeah, yeah, that's my hope. That's my hope. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting when I come round to it.
Well, I look forward to that interesting failure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's see how our community has failed as well. Let's.
Well, let's start on a not failure. And well, do you know what? We're joking about failures here, but again, it's just down to whatever anyone has managed to do in the month. There's no pressure to actually finish this,
Yeah.
because none of us need any like pressure to finish. Like it's just helpful.
Right. What sentence? Well, yeah, we're all adults. We all got stuff going on. Like the structure that we give every month is just that. It's a suggestion. If you manage to do it, great. If you don't worry. Just keep painting. Don't fall off a cliff. Don't abandon the project. You've committed to this. Just do a little bit every month, and that little bit that you do every month will build up to something significant by the end.
But do you know what? This is something that we've gone onto Jeremy's photo here from Dark Horse Painting.
Oh my god!
Like we'll get onto it in a sec, but like just consistently painting in and out. Like this month is the first month in a long time where I sat down and consistently painted, and just doing it draws you into
for
it
me.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just allowing yourself that time then makes it more achievable in itself, rather than just being like, I've got to finish this army, I've got to do this specific thing, and then I don't have to touch a paintbrush for months. Just enjoying and allowing yourself that time.
Yeah, to enjoy the miniature. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and fall in love with the process.
Exactly. And Jeremy, Dark Horse Painting, I've pulled up his Bretonnian. I think this will be a hippogriff, right? But he's a Bretonnian knight on eagle, which works perfectly.
I think he's finished the challenge already. I'm not talking about like this month. I'm talking about the entire challenge for the year, because the amount he's managed to paint this past month has been unbelievable.
Yeah, so I saw his Border Towns Brigands. The Brigands from the Outcasts list that look really good. They're cool models that he's done, like with a mix of Empire and Bretonnian bits. Alongside that, he's got this painted knight that looks really good. Really like the colour tones within the wings and the little like his flag with the rose on. Though I don't like that it's a white rose. Well, gotta get it in there, Miles. Do you know what? He's putting me off talking about this anymore. But it's really like the progress that he's made on it, and it looks a wonderful fantasy miniature, like within style.
No, he's done just a phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal job on this.
Yeah. So shall we go on to one of your picks, Miles? Or I suppose we both sort of decided on this first one, but
yes.
Yeah. So we're on to the Glowing Eyes Chaos model.
I'm awfully sorry. Burnt. I know I'm mispronouncing that. But what a job he's doing. So he's taken classic Chaos Warriors, replaced a lot of the heads with skulls to have these as reanimated wraiths for his army. And he's chosen like a very limited palette. But you have that striking eye. So I think this really exemplifies what you can do with a small amount of colors, but just choosing areas of interest. You don't need to paint the entirety of the miniature up to Golden Demon standard. You don't need to over elaborate on a shoe. No, you could do even quite like a basic job on that. But the visual punch of this comes in the form of like the head, the eyes. He's concentrated on areas of influence that you become like enraptured by. I think he's done such a good job. So keep this up. Keep going, because this is such a cool concept and a great execution.
Yeah. I agree, really. Like, it's something that the specific points on the model that your eyes are drawn to have all been done really well. And like, as you were just saying then, that you don't need to focus on like the leather boot.
No. I think we have a tendency to do this, right? That okay, if I paint a boot, I want to learn how to paint leather. You'll watch a tutorial, you'll come back, you'll spend like 3 or 4 hours on this boot. Like, that's a really nice boot. Then you put them in the unit and you never see it.
Mm.
And you become dissatisfied. Like, oh, why can't I get an army painted? Well, you need to cut corners in some areas to allow other areas to really flourish. And I think he has such a good eye for that, choosing points of interest on a miniature that give us the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah. So next, I'm going to shout out Dave the 13th, who is still in the work in progress stages of his orc army. I know he only started it in the last sort of week and a half or something, so he's not to finishing point of this challenge. But it's something that we'll talk about everyone. If you submit images, we're going to pick some and talk about them regardless of whatever stage they're at. And he's just been focusing on sculpting. So he's sculpted a war gong for a war banner, and some orky shields. And I just thought it was really nice that he was just like, I want to focus on some sculpting, and I'm just going to sit down and enjoy sculpting. I'm doing my own thing. Yeah. So I thought the process was nice, and I also really like the sense of hilarity that he's got into the really surprised
sense of fun.
Faces. Yeah.
Yeah, the sense of fun the orcs have. Yeah, like a lot of this world is very dour. You're dealing with chaos warriors, like all stretched, burnt, tortured faces and heads. You got Khemri, you got vampire counts sucking blood, but orcs are just there having a good time.
Exactly. Next, we've got L's wraiths that are sort of the contrasting. I think they might even be the Sigmar wraiths. But
yes, they are.
But I don't know whether he's done them for Sigmar or Fantasy.
I believe he is doing them for AOS. Yeah, he is doing them for AOS.
Yeah, cool. Like in purposes of the challenge, he just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
they're really nice painted models with a good sort of blend across the cloaks.
And it's fantasy-esque, right? He's not painting Necromunda. He's not painting a Space Marine. It comes from a shared visual world. Anyway, so. Yeah, and he has been talking about putting them on square bases. Put them on square bases. Join the superior square base movement.
Yeah, because who's using circles anymore? God, that's so 2023.
Have you seen that new meme going around? Of the guy going, "Oh, brother, what is that?
No, I'll educate myself before next time, so I don't.
We'll put up on the. Yeah, we have one post on our social media under HobbyHammer right now. That will be our second post.
Well, this isn't the HobbyHammer hashtag. This is the. This is
it's under a different branding. I'm sorry.
No. This is the HobbyHammer Instagram page that you've just started.
Yes, we have one grand total of 1 post and 11 followers.
Yes, success.
We've broken the 10 barrier. We're well on our way to getting free stuff sent to us by Games Workshop.
And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, yeah. If I'm recognized by a company, I have done well.
Excellent. Finally, I wanted to shout out Phil, who he's just finished his Dark Elf. He's finished a unit of Blackguard, and this is his Dark Elf General. And it's something that he actually sent it across with a bit of I know it's not the best model they finished, but he's finished the challenge, and Phil has not painted anything and actually finished a unit in years now, because he gets halfway through these projects and goes, "Oh, it's not good enough. I don't like it compared to these things when he was painting day after day to get a Sons of Horus army finished." He compares it to that and goes, "Oh, it's not up to that quality." And I think it's it's a good step to have just finished a painted.
It's encouraging.
Unpainted unit. Yeah. And you won't get if anyone who's been out of painting for a while, in which I am the same. If you've been out of painting for a while, you can't expect yourself to be at the same level as you previously were when you were painting every day. You've got to continuously practice. Otherwise, we would all be Little Legend Studio.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were going to mention someone else, and I was going to have a go at you for it. Oh, that's awfully kind of you.
Miles would be out of a job if we all just could paint perfectly from day one. And it's just something, he's just getting completed projects, whether that be within the month that we've set the challenge or just as you go along at whatever speed you want to go. I thought it was just really important to point out. Plus, me and Phil have matched basing. We have aligned.
And I think, so this has just popped into mind. So heresy painting and fantasy painting. I think in heresy, there's a very, you can paint it to a very strong structure. You take a miniature, you add a pre-coat, you add a color, you can modulate over the top, you add gloss, you add, there's a process. So no matter which miniature, be it a Primarch to an infantry, you can go through that same process and end up with a very decent end result. But with fantasy miniature painting, there isn't as clear of a process, because painting a Chaos Warrior is a very different experience to painting a bowman, from like a peasant bowman. So you may come to it with that little bit of apprehension that, oh, it doesn't look how I wanted it to, because maybe you haven't got that structure behind you. Maybe you haven't got that process down yet. I find that you learn the structure as you paint the army, and you get good at the structure and developing that workflow by the time you finished it. So like you said, it is so important. It's so encouraging to see people who've been out of it going for it, and even saying, oh, it's not as good as I hoped it'd be. It's not as good as I wanted it to be. It's not as good as I could do, but doing it anyway. Because the only way you get good at painting miniatures is painting a lot of bad miniatures. You paint a lot of bad miniatures, eventually you suck less at it.
Yeah, and enjoying the process as you're going along. Because it was something that Phil said, like, as he'd done it, when he messaged me this model, like, this morning or last night, and was like, it's not as good as I want, but I've really enjoyed doing it and got a sense of completionism by completing it. And it's just building those wins on top of each other that just increases over time.
Yeah, that's how you get good at anything. Yeah, I mean that's why I'm so concerned about painting other things during this month. I want to paint Chaos Warrior stuff, even if it's like a dog, even if it's like a character. I want to paint something to keep building these little small wins that build on top of one another. Yes, so that was our challenge. That was this month's roundup. All that's left for us to do is to announce the Warlord of the month. And I mean, I picked it last month. Max, would you like to pick the Warlord of the month this month?
I think it's going to have to be Jeremy from Dark Horse Painting, because that miniature that we've pulled out looks
That'd be my choice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Phil, as the other person that got the points painted that we've pulled up, but
keep painting, Phil. Keep painting, Phil. You might get it next month. Yeah, I fully agree. Just the quality, the output, everything. So I'll be contacting Dark Horse Painting after this. He will pick the secondary challenge for the month, but the month of March 2024, what is the challenge? What are we setting down? What is the gauntlet we're laying down for our community?
So last month we picked 500 points. So obviously this month we're going to pick 1,000 points, right?
Yes. Yeah. Escalation, right?
Yeah. It's no. So we're going to do an extra 250 points, and that is, I think it will be a good level for us to keep going with month by month. We've had this sort of, oh my God, fantasy's out right now, I'm going to paint all the time.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can like sort of pare it back a bit to a more reasonable level. Anything that's not been finished like this first month, we might have a bit more breathing space to like catch up with. And then we can take more time as we get into things like special choices, rare choices, lords and heroes, and just spend that bit more time over each one. So I think 250 points, giving us a total of 750, and by June the 8th and 9th we should have 1750. And I mentioned that date because that is the Brewery Town's Burning event date, where we've scheduled it at that point so that we can have a reasonable size force. I'm running a narrative, the Old World campaign day or campaign weekend. So if anyone wants to join that, the link will be in the comments. And I'm going to spam about the video that I made all over Instagram. And
Good. Yes.
Facebook.
On our Instagram page.
Yes, on that one as well.
HobbyHammer Instagram page. Yeah, we got one for it.
Yes, all the contents.
Yes. So for next month, I'll be in Adepticon. I don't anticipate I'm going to get much stuff done. Even with the paltry 250 points, I very much doubt I'll be able to do that. So instead, what I want to concentrate on is fully finishing off what I pledged for this month. I want to at least build the next 250 points, maybe 5, because building's a lot easier. I don't care what people say, building's a lot easier than painting. So I want to at least have a framework leading up to the month after. And I want to concentrate. So for this month, if I'm going to paint one thing, I want to concentrate on the unit filler for my Warriors of Chaos army. So I figure with my actual Chaos Warriors, I'll need some kind of slave. I've used the new kit from the Ogre, the Warcry Ogre box set,
Yes,
where they fight against witch hunters. Yes, so I figured this is going to make a nice sort of like visual counterpoint to the rest of the Warriors, where they have him like chained up in the background, mauling stuff. Yeah, so that's that. If I paint nothing else, it's going to be one of these for next month. Well, but I did also want to.
What you could do, Miles, is, do you know you mentioned a dragon earlier? Well, dragons tend to be around 500 points, including the character. No. You could build the dragon this month and paint it next month, and that's 2 months worth of points. It all falls into place.
The dragons for a Calador army. The dragon's nothing to do with this. No.
Maybe it could be a dark elf.
Not could be nothing.
It could be a dark elf cult of Morkai Slanesh worshipping dragon that would be part of the warband for your Chaos Warriors.
I've also got this guy. Moving swiftly on. I've also got this guy. It does, because I got a thing for Dark Elves anyway. But I've got a mock-up for a Marauder. Because I do want Marauders, and I saw on the Discord somebody had used one of the leather helmets from the Space Wolf set, and that made so much sense to me. So I want to create an entire Marauder unit using these. And I want them to look a bit like Bjorg Bearstruck. Do you remember the old Dogs of War?
Yeah.
Unit? So I've already got an idea for the unit filler as well. So at the apex of the fight, these guys, these Marauders, they just spontaneously turn into werewolves.
Skin wolves, come on.
Skin wolves, yes. They just spontaneously burst out into skin wolves. Skin wolfiness. Yeah. So that would be the unit filler for these guys.
What model have you based that Marauder on?
This is the limited edition one that was released at Adepticon last year.
Oh, right, okay. From Games Workshop?
From Games Workshop, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, myself and everyone else at home can just wish we had that model. I was even there. Why did I not pick up that model?
Because the queue.
Oh, was that it?
The queue sucked. Yeah. But if there's one again in Adepticon, I'll get you one.
Please. Right. Shall we close it out and leave everyone wondering at your trip to Adepticon?
Yes. I mean, yes.
When is Adepticon? Is it next week?
No, it's the 20th-ish, around that time of March.
Oh,
so
right, so
a couple
we can
of weeks'
talk
time.
about that in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we can run it road to Adepticon. Yeah. Right. I think that is it for HobbyHammer issue 7
or 6
or 6 or 8, depending
on
whatever the thumbnail says. Okay. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. We'll see you next week.
See you in a bit.